We are all packed up and are ready to move again, this time to Orlando. We understand that the park is massive, maybe over 1,000 sites, but that is a very nice place to stay. Now, I've hardly seen our neighbors since the day we pulled into Three Flags, but do remember his distinctive Super C and Toad pass us about 45 minutes out on the road here. We were doing 65, the posted, and he was going quite a bit faster and didn't leave a whole lot of room for error when he pulled back into our travel lane. Had I seen him out, I might have brought it up in conversation, but didn't see him once in the couple of weeks that we've been here. On the day before we were scheduled to leave, I saw him, an older gentleman, put a couple of bags of garbage on the hood of his car and 2 what appeared to be empty 30-packs of beer in the car. Then he seemed to unassuredly walk over to a compartment, turns out to be his docking station, on the coach and fumble with the sewer slinky and fitting. He unscrewed the sewer cap and just set the elbow business end in the sewer hose. The hose looked a little short and was coming out of the cabinet at about a 45-degree angle. I know what you're thinking, and I was thinking the same thing. This isn't going to end well. Well, before I could get up and tell him or even turn on a camera, he turned around after letting go of the hose and pulled a valve. About a half second later, the 4-inch hose and fitting popped out of the sewer pipe and began spewing contents out over the grass next to his RV. He fumbled for a moment or two, then slammed the valve closed. Me, a sigh of relief. The liquid coming out of the hose and now dislodged fitting was mostly clear, no color. But, from experience, even gray water can have a nasty smell. Well, still barehanded, he grabbed the end of the 90-degree elbow and kind of screwed it into the pipe, more or less cross-threaded, then reached in and pulled the handle again. The weight of the liquid in whatever tank he opened caused the hose to droop to the ground, I'm sure testing the strength of the Slinky's construction. While doing all of this, the guy was not wearing gloves and did not wash his hands between rubbing his nose, wiping his forehead and mouth, and pushing his hair back. Yuck. He did, however, have the forethought to wipe his wet hands on his shirt and his pants. I was aghast and just stood in the RV with my mouth agape, watching. It's pretty good, aghast and agape. And no, I wasn't quick enough to get it on film, but we'll keep a camera handy from this day forth. A few moments later, he shut the valve, and while a few feet back from the dispensing end of the hose, he gave it a flip to dislodge it from the sewer fitting. Quickly fumbled it back into the bay, closed everything up, and drove off in his car. About 40 minutes later, he came back with another man who unscrewed his garden hose, water supply hose, from the park standpipe, then drove off in what I thought was the Toad. The old fella got in the cab of the Super C and drove off rather quickly from the park. Yeah, the front end of our park truck is still intact, but he only missed it by a feather. Wow. Later in the day, Shelley and I were going to take a little drive to a nearby winery slash microbrewery. So we hopped into Beast and drove to the place's address, only to find the gate closed and no one answering their phones. It was a beautiful drive with trees covered in Spanish moss draped over the road. Looking good. So to make a win out of the outing, we went into a nearby town and did a little shopping. The next morning, most everything was done, but check-in for Orlando was later in the early afternoon, so we hooked up and waited. Around 11:30, we got out on the road. Only maybe an hour and a half drive, and we're at Orlando. Boy, this park is big, and summer means not heavily populated. So we've got quite a pick of spaces, mostly 50 amp and full hookups. We spent almost 45 minutes driving around trying to make up our minds. Finally a decision. The RV spaces for the most part are spread with lots of room between each other, and most of the pads are asphalt. Older, but still nice. Right after we set up, Orlando greeted us with a little afternoon shower. I went right to editing to make sure we keep our schedule. In a couple of days, we will be flying back to Arizona for a few doctor's visits, then back to the RV. Not long, maybe 3 days or so. It'll be a busy week. We are still so new at this lifestyle and are learning every day. We found out many ways to not do things, and sometimes, through the school of hard knocks, just what we should be doing to make things easier. Hope you guys have been as entertained as we are. We are glad to have you along on our journey. See you next week when we scoot back to Arizona. Please travel safe.